Banksia Hill is the only detention center for young offenders aged 10 to 17 years in Western Australia. It houses both male and female detainees from all over the state, who are either sentenced to a period of detention, awaiting trial or bail, or transferred from adult prisons. Banksia Hill has been plagued by problems such as riots, lockdowns, staff shortages, violence, abuse, and neglect. In this video, we will explore some of the current issues and challenges facing the youth detention system in Banksia Hill, and what can be done to break the cycle of incarceration and trauma. One of the main challenges is the overrepresentation of Indigenous young people in Banksia Hill. According to the Aboriginal Legal Service of WA, Indigenous youth make up about 80% of the detainee population, despite being only 6% of the state's youth population. This is a result of systemic racism, intergenerational trauma, poverty, lack of education and employment opportunities, and inadequate support services for Indigenous families and communities. Indigenous young people are more likely to be arrested, charged, refuse bail, and sentenced to detention than their non-Indigenous peers. They are also more likely to experience harsher treatment and conditions inside Banksia Hill, such as isolation, restraint, strip searching, and pepper spraying. Another challenge is the lack of therapeutic and rehabilitative programs for young people in Banksia Hill. Many of the detainees have complex needs and histories of trauma, abuse, mental health issues, substance abuse, and disability. They require specialized care and support to address their underlying issues and help them develop positive skills and behaviors. However, due to chronic staff shortages and frequent lockdowns, many of the programs and services that are supposed to be available for young people are canceled or disrupted. This means that young people are often left bored, frustrated, and angry, with no constructive outlets or opportunities for learning and growth. This can lead to increased incidents of violence, self-harm, and suicide attempts. A third challenge is the use of Unit 18 at Casuarina Prison as a temporary youth detention center. Unit 18 is an adult prison facility that was converted to accommodate young male detainees who were involved in riots or deemed too high risk for Banksia Hill. However, Unit 18 has been criticized for being unsuitable and unsafe for young people as it lacks adequate facilities, staff, and programs for their needs. Young people in Unit 18 are subjected to more restrictive regimes and conditions than those in Banksia Hill, such as longer lockdowns, less contact with family and friends, and limited access to education and recreation. They are also exposed to adult prisoners who may pose a threat or a negative influence on them. These are some of the current situation and challenges of youth detention in Banksia Hill that need urgent attention and action. The youth detention system in WA is failing to protect the rights and well-being of young people in its care, and to provide them with effective interventions that can reduce their risk of reoffending and improve their life outcomes. There is a need for a radical overhaul of the system that involves working with local communities, Indigenous elders, advocates, and experts to develop alternative solutions that are more humane, holistic, and evidence-based. We need to break the cycle of youth detention in Banksia Hill and create a better future for our young people. Youth offending and recidivism are serious social problems that affect millions of young people around the world. But what are the root causes and consequences of these behaviors? And how can we break the cycle of youth detention in Banksia Hill? The root causes of youth offending and recidivism are complex and multifaceted. They include individual factors such as mental health problems, substance abuse, trauma, impulsivity, and low self-esteem, family factors such as abuse, neglect, domestic violence, parental criminality, and poor supervision, peer factors such as delinquent friends, gang involvement, and peer pressure, school factors such as academic failure, truancy, bullying, and dropout, and community factors, such as poverty, unemployment, social exclusion, and lack of positive opportunities. These factors interact and influence each other in different ways for different youth. Some youth may be more vulnerable or resilient to the risk factors than others. Some youth may have protective factors that buffer them from the negative effects of the risk factors. Some youth may have turning points that change their life trajectories for better or worse. The consequences of youth offending and recidivism are also severe and far-reaching. They affect not only the offenders themselves, but also their victims, families, communities, and society at large. The consequences include physical and psychological harm, loss of property, fear of crime, reduced quality of life, stigma and discrimination, disrupted relationships, reduced educational and employment prospects, increased health problems, increased involvement in the adult criminal justice system, and increased costs for the welfare and justice systems. These consequences can create a vicious cycle of disadvantage and delinquency that is hard to break. Youth who offend may face harsh punishments that do not address their underlying needs or rehabilitate them. Youth who are detained or incarcerated may be exposed to more violence, abuse, isolation, and negative influences that worsen their mental health and behavior. Youth who are released may face barriers to reintegrate into society and access positive opportunities that could help them desist from crime. Youth who reoffend may face more severe sanctions that further limit their chances of recovery and reformation. Breaking the cycle of youth detention in Banksia Hill requires a comprehensive and balanced approach that combines welfare and justice models. It requires a public health perspective that recognizes that youth offending and recidivism are not only legal issues, but also social issues that require prevention and intervention strategies that address the root causes and consequences of these behaviors. It requires a developmental perspective that acknowledges that youth are not mini adults, but rather individuals who are still growing and learning, and who have unique needs and potentials that should be respected and nurtured. It requires a therapeutic perspective that emphasizes that youth who offend are not only offenders, but also victims with complex needs that require evidence-based treatments that can help them heal and change. In this video, we will explore some of the best practices and examples of how we can break the cycle of youth detention in Banksia Hill by adopting this comprehensive and balanced approach. We will discuss how we can prevent youth from entering the juvenile justice system by providing them with positive opportunities and supports in their families, schools, peers, and communities. We will discuss how we can divert youth from formal processing by using restorative justice approaches that hold them accountable for their actions while repairing the harm they cause to their victims and society. We will discuss how we can rehabilitate youth who are detained or incarcerated by providing them with safe, humane, and developmentally appropriate conditions and services that can address their mental health problems, substance abuse issues, trauma histories, educational deficits, and behavioral challenges. We will discuss how we can reintegrate youth who are released by providing them with ongoing support and supervision that can help them transition back to society and access positive opportunities for education, employment, housing, and social participation. By implementing these strategies, we can break the cycle of youth detention in Banksia Hill. We can reduce youth offending and recidivism rates. We can improve youth outcomes and well-being. We can enhance public safety and social justice. We can create a better future for our young people.